is a podcast about all things health and well-being with me, Ask Elizabeth, counsellor, health advocate and blogger. Join me as we get to know these guests and learn about how they implement health, well-being and self-care practices into their lives. Welcome to Unearthing Wellbeing with Ask Elizabeth, where our greatest wealth is health. Hey everyone, and welcome to my first episode with a guest. When I started this journey and passion project, I had no idea I'd be so lucky to have people I'd admired for so long actually say yes to coming on. And for a first guest, I was very lucky. That's right, it's Lola Berry. She's an author, presenter, yogi, nutritionist, acting student, and business owner. WOWEEE, did I hit the jackpot? She was truly a ray of sunshine. We spoke about an array of topics, including the art of saying no, putting our needs first, food, and mental health. I truly hope you wholeheartedly love this episode as much as I had the honor of interviewing
her. I'm pumped for today. I'm so sorry. You're the first person I've ever forgotten about a podcast for, so I apologize.
No.
And I have my own podcast, so if someone did it to me, I'd be like, what? That
is totally fine, honestly. Thank you so much for saying yes and being my first guest on, I guess, Unearthing Wellbeing, which is what I've called it,
Awesome.
where our greatest wealth is health. So, very
nice.
appreciative.
Oh, dude, so fine.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Yes, my name's Lola. I guess on paper, I'm a nutritionist, a yoga teacher, and I write books. I am in the tail end of a first draft of my manuscript for book number 11.
Yay!
Yeah. I'm not quite at that stage yet of being like, I'm in the oh, this chapter's only got 2,000 words. I'm in that kind of pointy end, and I want to try and deliver first draft. I've given myself till the end of next week, and I want to get that first draft delivered.
Yeah.
I'm just, that's me. I'm also studying full-time acting at the moment too, so I'm excited to flex that muscle and start doing all the scary audition-like things next year too. So, it's exciting.
That is exciting. And I've seen a few of your renditions on Instagram, which is pretty cool. Your voices for American accents and stuff are insane. So you should be really proud of yourself.
Dude, do you know what? It's so nice that you say that, but I am not naturally good at accents. I just pound the friggin' pavement. So if you ever want to master an accent, I should be proof, because General American, once you've got it, it's with you. Like I said to my accent coach the other day, I'm like, oh my God, I was just walking around the house, and you do it without thinking because you see it on TV, you watch movies, so it's always around you. But when you've done the training, you can just literally just switch into being able to speak in a Southern accent, though. That's really, really hard.
I know. That's fantastic. The fact that you can do that, I don't think I'd be able to, except it actually reminds me of a time I was in Europe and I was coming back, and I think I was in the Melbourne airport, and I started apologizing for bumping into someone, but in Italian. I'm like, oh my God, no. I'm like, sorry, I'm not in Italy anymore. Sorry for bumping into you. It was so funny. I'm like, once you're in it as well, I feel like you pick it up even easier.
That's what they say. So are you Italian then?
Yeah.
Where's your family from?
I'm from Sicily and Basilicata, so the south. Yeah.
My boyfriend's Italian, so that's why I ask. And I've learned that where you're from, people are usually like, I'm so excited. I've never been to Italy. I'm trying to convince my boyfriend to take me. I was like, just take me to Italy and propose. And he's like, okay.
I love that idea. I full support that.
Speaking of which, I actually see your videos, like when you're cooking with Matt. It's Matt, right? Or do you call him
Yeah.
Boss? Yeah.
I call him Bosso as well. He gets a bit of everything.
I love it. Yeah, and just cooking the Italian stuff. Like I am a bit biased, but I love the cooking additions that you've got. Makes me inspired. At least
He'll be cooking. Everybody writes me and they're like, oh, we love that Matt's so calm and chill and you've got the camera in his face. And I'm like, excuse me, what you don't see is Matt going, hey, I think you need to film me doing this. I think people need to see this recipe. And I'm like, all right. So he actually loves it, I think.
it's the best. I love it. And as a nutritionist, like what would you say are your 3 best tips for people who are trying to work out, I guess, how to be healthier, but like they don't know what steps to take initially?
Yeah, so the first thing I would do, these are going to sound like really weird tips, like, because they're not like eat more carrots. They're quite different.
Not at all.
Thing I would do is like simplify your health, like bring it back to basics. One of my favorite health authors is called David Gillespie, and he's got a book called Just Eat Real Food. And the title says it all. And you would know, like, I think Italians do it so well, like real food, not packet stuff. If you want, like, even I'll say to Matt, I'll be like, I really want fruit mince pies. He's like, nah, not unless I make it.
I love
you know. Yeah, but I'm not saying everyone needs to make their own freaking gluten-free whatevers. But what I'm saying is like, bring it back to real fruit, veggies, nuts, seeds, proteins. Sure, a little bit of treats here and there, but if you can make it, if it's homemade, you're going to know the ingredients that are going there. So number 1, keep it simple, just eat real food. Number 2, drop the guilt. I think that there's a very psychological part of health where, you know, if we fall off the wagon, then we feel really bad and then we emotionally eat. And it's this really uncomfortable roller coaster, especially for women. So yeah, definitely drop the guilt. And if you fall into that emotional eating kind of cycle, which I have had spent the better part of 10 years in, the only thing that got me out of it was a therapist. So I'm really a big advocate for mental health. And then the other thing is, I always say to people, food is here for 2 reasons. One, yes, it's here to nourish you. And then the other one is to enjoy with the people you love. So if you're at Christmas with the fam, or, you know, you're at a grandma's house or a nonna's house and they make your favorite treat,
say yes to it.
Eat it. Yeah, say yes. Enjoy it mindfully. It's also as a form of celebration. And if you look back over history, that's what food was used for. Yes, to nourish, but also to celebrate wins, to celebrate, milestones in the religious calendar as well. It's a form of celebration.
Oh, I love those. And I think it's really, that resonates with me a lot, because I think it was around February when I started taking a conscious approach to how I would eat. Although I would eat quite healthy, being Mediterranean diet and all that, I think because I've got endometriosis, and calcium malabsorption in my back, I was wanting to feed myself better alternatives to what I was already doing. And that started with like taking collagen and being conscious of like what supplements would help support my well-being. And of course, like some people, like it's unique to every person, as is like counseling for me, because I'm a counselor. I obviously don't pigeonhole people. So that's the same with what you put into your mouth and so forth. So I definitely support that so much. And I think being rigid in how you eat as well is not going to be very productive for you, and you're going to end up eating really bad food or break that cycle eventually. So that's really important. And I loved how you said, with the celebrations and so forth, like, or when you're going to your nonna's house or grandmother's house, eat what they're making, because you don't know how long you can actually eat those for, because everyone's got an end date, as gloomy as that sounds. But like, I think foods that really make you happy is really good for your mental health too. So for me, I was always saying, all right, so for a Sunday, because my mum lives next door, as wogs do, she would make like a homemade pasta. So that was pasta night. And like, obviously it wasn't from the packet, so it was a bit healthier, but you know what? Just enjoy that bowl and deal with the consequences later. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And also you hit the nail on the head when you said how like restriction and being really controlled with your food usually doesn't end well, but also like that's got its turn. It's called orthorexia, and where it is a condition where you are just so obsessed with health and exercise and calories in, calories out, and only eating this certain thing on this certain time at this, it becomes mentally crippling. And so and that's why I think like loosening the grip of anything to do with health, and knowing that like different phases of your life you're going to need, and even as a woman, like different times of your cycle you're going to need different things. Like even I'm not a big meat eater, but like as soon as like I get my period, my boyfriend's like, let's cook red meat, get the iron back in, like really start to be, historically women were super in tune with their bodies, with the moon, with what was going on with the earth. And I think we want to get back to that almost seasonal style of looking after ourselves, much more intuitive.
Yeah, I love that so much. And that also, like, that reminds me of even with I don't know if you know Kissed Earth product?
Yeah,
So,
Rachel Finch. Yeah.
So I take her mushrooms, and I was watching a podcast on like the hormones and so forth with the Divine Woman, and they say generally speaking you would take that around your cycle date, which was interesting because I was taking it like every single day, all different types, and I'm like, you know what, if you actually take it according to when you've got your period as opposed to just every day, you might actually see the difference in terms of your production and all that. So yeah, it's really interesting.
Totally. And I think it's so good. It sounds like you're really hungry to learn as well. And I think that like anybody that's got an interest in health, mental health, anything, learn, read. Like I own a coffee company that's got mushrooms in it as well, and I love like researching lion's mane, and then my boyfriend would be like, let's research reishi mushroom. We'll just like learn. Like there is so much. I heard on a podcast with Hugh Jackman actually, and I was like, oh wow. And he every morning he gets up and reads for half an hour every morning, and usually he's an actor, so he'd be reading a play or a anyway. And he said, look, I can't take credit for it. He goes, I got it from Sir Patrick Stewart, who's one of the OG actors in he's actually in America, but he's a British actor. And he said, Sir Patrick Stewart said when he turned 60, he realized he will not live long enough to read all the books that he wants to read and all the plays that he wants to read. So he sets his alarm an hour earlier every day in order to read.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Right. And I just think, shit, I want to learn. There's so much I want to learn. Like, why not just soak up as much as we can? And like how lucky that we're like young enough that our brains are fast and we can absorb things. Like, you know how you mentioned how like me with accent school, the young ones, they're like 19 and 20-year-olds, they get it like that. I have to work. And I'm like, shit. But then I'll watch the older actors that are probably in their 50s, and it takes them double what it takes me. And I'm like, wow, okay, I've got to learn. I'm like, so I'm a bit of a nerd. Like I during lockdown, I went through a phase where I had to read a book a week and a play a week.
I wish I did that. I'm envious.
I know, but it only lasted for like lockdown. Now, because I'm like you and I do podcasts, I'll often be reading and researching the guest. I'm a bit OCD into its depths. That's why it's so much fun to actually come on and be a guest, because for me, this is way easier what we're doing today. You've got the hard job, my friend.
No, like for a first, I'm so not humbled. I'm very appreciative to have you on, because you just ooze information and of wealth and everything. I'm just like, yes, I need you.
But see, I just love to learn. I'm not the smartest person, I'll tell you that right now. I'm not super academic, but I love to learn and I love to work and be working on something and be working on whether it be the craft of acting, whether it be on, just like I did a whole course in like learning how to do auto cue, like, reading, how newsreaders have auto cue because I had a fear of it. Like, I just love learning. And I think it's such a gift to give back to yourself, to read. And then a lot of people say like meditation, and I know like I've got a guest on tomorrow that's pro meditation every single day, and I struggle with meditation, but I can do yoga every day and I can read every day, and they're my forms of meditation.
And they're also your forms of self-care. So
yeah. Big time.
So speaking of which, what other self-care tricks and stuff like that do you use for, I guess, easing anxiety, fears, and whatever else comes our way in life?
Yeah. So first of all, a therapist. I have that's my non-negotiable weekly session, and even in lockdown we would do it exactly how you and I are speaking now. So I would see his face and be able to, I'd still bawl my eyes out if I need to bawl my eyes out. And that's my game changer. That's why I could talk about mental health all day. So that's my number one non-negotiable self-care. The other one is definitely to move my body, whether it be a walk out in nature or yoga. I like to move once a day. If I don't, I don't feel clear mentally. And then little things like, tomorrow afternoon I have acting school late till tonight, and it's the last day of term. So tomorrow I've booked an infrared sauna and a massage and Reiki healing session. Just little things that nourish. And I know I've been sitting doing Zoom, writing a manuscript, but also doing school. I know I need a massage. I know that, I'm not in Melbourne where I usually live. And so I'm not seeing my chiropractor once a week. So just little things like that. But also self-care can be sitting down, cutting up a fresh mango and eating with my boyfriend, watching Netflix. That can be self-care.
Yeah. Just feeding your soul.
Yeah. Big time.
That actually, I resonate with that a lot, because I think I go through waves of when I'm doing heaps of self-care and I'm feeling at my prime, and then something happens in my life and those things that have become daily like routines slip, and then I'm like, why am I not feeling so like crash hot? And it's because I'm not doing those things, like getting some vitamin D, doing some yoga, reading a book, stuff like that. It's just so important. And I think sometimes we all forget to just feed our souls with the things that, I guess, make us happy and make us full and fill our cup up. So yeah.
Even watching, like, I know that I can watch a favorite movie and it takes me, like, it can take me to a part of my heart where I'm just like so absorbed and lost in that show. Or shout out anybody that wants to just feel good and you don't want to commit to watching anything for a long period of time. Get into a TV show called Schitt's Creek. It's phenomenal, but it makes you feel happy. It touches on social issues without even trying to touch on social issues, and you will feel awesome after you watch a show like that.
It's so funny that you say that, because my cousin was saying over the weekend, have you watched it? And obviously I hadn't. And I was like, oh my God, I need to like put it on my list. But for me, that's This Is Us. I don't know if you've watched that before.
I haven't watched it, but I know exactly what you're talking about. It's
amazing. Like every episode you're going through either your life events that have occurred and it just resonates with you so much, or like other people's that are still so powerful, and you're either crying, smiling, laughing out loud, and it's just so good.
You need to watch Schitt's Creek then, just also because you're a counselor, and I think that they have such a beautiful way of disarming current social issues that cause people mental pain and anguish, and the way they do it is so beautiful. And do me a favor, and after you watch it, because you'll get hooked, they show a behind the scenes of the last season, and all the actors are just crying, and the lead actors and creators of the show are father and son
Oh my
in
God,
real
that's
life.
beautiful.
Yeah, so there's like a family cast, even the sisters in it, like in real life, and you'll just, on that last day, you'll see them on the behind the scenes. They'll call cut on a day, and in the whole cast will just start all bawling because they're never going to have that sister character again. Like, and it's so that's what gets me so excited about acting and drama, like being part of a community where you create this thing that connects with other humans that watch it.
Definitely. And the thing is, even with those actors, most of the time they'll be like friends for life because they've had that experience together.
Totally.
And it's like really nice, even for us as like an audience, we're able to connect with them, even if they're not like they're make-believe characters, because of shared events and so forth.
Totally. You've hit the nail on the head. It's all about that shared. And I think that's what connection is. And when you even talked about This Is Us and how you can relate to the characters and what they're going through, you can connect to something that is going on for them because you've either felt it or you understand what that feeling is going to feel like. And that's why 1 minute you're bawling and the next minute, like there's a wonderful love in this show that I was talking about, and every time the couple comes on, I grab Matt's leg and I like grab his leg and he's like, will you stop digging your fingers into my leg? And I just love it. It gets me so excited. I'm like, oh, this is the best love. And you know, I think you got to watch it and report
I definitely will be. And I'll let you know.
Yes, please.
That's fantastic. I'm just trying to think, I guess with you were saying how you obviously see a therapist, I guess for 10 years, did you say? And you do it weekly?
It's been 3 years consistently, but I have dipped my toe in for over 10 years, you know, like with different therapists, but it took me a while to find the right fit for me. When I found the right fit, because the mistake I made when I was younger, about 10 years ago, I saw someone specifically for eating disorders, and it was like too much attention was put on my problem, and I couldn't escape my I couldn't, and I found it overwhelming. Whereas now I see a therapist and we do life. Like, sure, we'll spend a whole session talking about emotional eating if we have to, but it's never it's just whatever comes up. I've gone into my current therapist with business plans and gone, what do you reckon? And he's like, okay, go in knowing your worth, you know, and it just gives you that confidence boost.
Oh,
so
100%.
Yeah, but 3 years really consistently.
And I think it's amazing that you're able to recognize the need, because I think from this whole experience in COVID and like lockdown, the need for well-being and mental health, just check-ins, like we go see the GP every 6 months to a year, is so important.
I've been going to the GP so much since lockdown because I'm like, oh, I better get my skin checked. Oh, I better get my pap smeared. Like, I said to my boyfriend, I'm like, see, people go to the doctor more because they've got time to look after themselves. Like, 100% yes. He goes, you've been made friends with the doctors just because you're like, hey guys, I think I might get this checked. And they're just like, this crazy girl keeps coming in.
That was me before lockdown, and people would be like, I forgot the word for it, but when you're
hypochondriac.
Yes, hypochondriac. I'm like, I'm not a hypochondriac. I just like to make sure that I'm well.
Yeah, no, I'm the exact same. Like, the funniest thing, I had a skin check the other day, literally last week, and the doctor was laughing so hard behind his mask because he goes, oh, you know, have you ever been sunburned? I'm like, no. He's like, what's made you come in here today? I'm like, well, I'm 35. I feel like this is a great age to really get on top of my skin. And he's like, right, any history of melanoma? I was like, no. I'm like, I don't think my parents have had skin checks. And he's like, okay. And he's like, getting they get a special light out. Yeah, and they check and I'm quite pale, and I lived in Queensland, and I was anyway halfway through the session because they've got to check every mole on your body, literally, and they start at your scalp and work all the way down. And I was like, oh, I should admit, I lived in London for a little while and I went to a solarium just 2 or 3 times. I'm like, but never more than 8 minutes. And I always covered my face and hands. And he was like, oh my God, this chick is crazy. And I was like, oh, and when I wear zinc on my face, I also put it on the backs of my hands because I know that shows premature aging. And he's like, oh my God.
That's
I'm
made
that
my
person.
day. Sorry, me too. I watched the Real Monty, I think. Yeah, that was
What's
on
the real
TV. Basically all these stars went on to advocate for breast
Oh,
cancer. Yeah.
Sam
And then
Frost and
yeah.
Lethal Jones. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
And I've been watching it from the start. So every year once it hits, I'm like, okay, I'm going to my GP and getting checked. And the GP is like, you do realize, like, unless you've got a family history of like breast cancer and stuff, you're fine and you don't need to get checked till like your 50s. I'm like, really? I'm like, but
Do
like,
you know
I'm here now.
Do you know I do a breast check every time I have a shower?
Yeah.
Honestly, it's part of my shower ritual, and I'm like, am I mental? Like, I am just, I'm definitely a hypochondriac. But it is also, I think they say people that study health generally are, and obviously, you learn so much, and you hear there's enough sad news stories to kind of scare you into, oh shit, I better get on top of that. But also, over the last 12 months, I've been applying for USA visas and green cards and whatnot, and the medical you have to go through that is insane.
Yeah, because they don't have like a Medicare system there, do they?
No, I am talking, expect to be poked and prodded for like 3 hours straight.
Oh my
It's full on.
God.
Yeah, not fun.
But
good. I guess it's good. You get a full check. Like,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, I think I've got two things like from that, because it's true, like being in the health sector, like it makes you more attuned to your own health as well. Well, most of the time. But also, like, if you've got family history of stuff like cancer and all that thing, like you either bury yourself under sand, or you actually become more attuned to, okay, I need to get this checked. I need to be more healthy. And I think for me, that was the case because I hadn't lost anyone to cancer or anything up until like 2 years ago. And that's when I first started getting more active in the holistic health space, which is when I started my counseling course. And I guess that's when I shaved my hair too. And I was just like, you know what? I'm doing this. I don't give a shit what people say. Excuse my French. And I'm just going to keep raising awareness, even if it's for one person to get themselves checked or just research. So then we don't have to go through this throughout our entire lifetime. You may as well. So yeah, I think that led me to the holistic health space, and not only treating your body, but also your mind. So yeah.
Totally. I totally agree with you. And I'm the same. Like at the start of lockdown, I had a little lump come up on my arm, and I was like, oh my God, what's going on? Like I freaked out. And I went to the doctor again. The doctor was laughing, and he's like, oh no, this is common. Like, people, and I'm like, am I getting old? Like what's happening? I don't know, and he's like, it is totally fine. There's nothing bad. And he's like, but from the way this conversation's going, he goes, I think I should cut it out because you're giving yourself a bit of anxiety around it.
Yeah.
Well, then I was anxious until it was cut out, wasn't I? Because I was like, oh my God, how much local anesthetic are they going to use? How are they going to cut it out? Like I was micromanaging down to the point that he was laughing at me the day I had to get it cut out. And it came back, the result came back completely clear. But I think it's empowering to face the fear and know. Like I think it's just the waiting game that is really, and I actually spoke about it on Insta stories because I wanted to have an open conversation. And the amount of people that wrote to me and said, oh my God, I had a biopsy a few weeks ago. It's so scary. Oh my God, I did. And thank you so much for sharing your story because it inspired me to get a little lump checked out.
Yeah, exactly. It's so empowering. And because you've got such a big platform, you may as well like say what you need to say and just be straight. Don't like sugarcoat things. So other people like your listeners that messaged you have actually gone out and got themselves checked. So it's just amazing.
Yeah, I think, and you just hit the nail on the head with be straight. Like, I'm just like, so my only motto with everything I do is just be real. From the day I started morning TV 12 years ago, I would sit in the green room and my business partner at the time would say 3 P's, Lola: passion, pace, posture. Because I've got really big boobs, so I always had bad posture. I'd always lean over whatever I was cooking or making. And I was like, passion, pace, posture. And then I just go, just be real and just walk on set, because it's scary live to air TV. And yeah, and for me, I've always carried that with everything I do. I'm like, just be so real, Lola, that you're either going to rub people up the wrong way, but some people are going to go, that's what I want more of. It's the way you were describing the TV show that you love. It's the way I was describing mine. It's, if you're real, people can connect to you.
100%. And the people who don't like you, tough luck. Like, you've got enough friends and family who love you in your life that you don't need those people who are just there to be spiteful and hate and stuff like that. So may as well just be your true self.
Yeah,
and I think that's just so important for, like, as part of yourself, not self-care, but your whole health in everything you do. Like, you need to be happy in yourself and do things that I guess make you happier. You don't do things to make others happy. And if you're continuously like filling everyone else's cup, eventually you're going to burn out and you're going to like be run down and so forth. So yeah,
big time. Yeah, I was just going to say ditto to everything that you just said. You hit the nail on the head. Yeah.
How do you, I guess, deal with burnout, or do you know when it's coming?
Yeah, so usually if I don't see it coming, it'll result with eating. So if I'm really exhausted, or I've pushed myself too far, or I know that I'm lacking sleep and I haven't moved, then I'll usually turn to food. So that's the big giveaway. And it's like the way you were saying how, like, if you drop your self-care, you'd be like, why aren't I feeling so crash hot? For me, it'll be like, why am I snacking for no good reason right now? It's the same kind of like little red flags that'll come up for me. As far as what I do for burnout, what I used to love doing that I cannot wait to do again is I would take myself to a movie theater. Like in Melbourne, there's this really old school one in it's not Carlton, it's like in Seddon, and it's this old school 50s movie theater. Oh yeah, it's the best. I'll find out the name of it and I'll send it to you. But it's it'll play like current movies, but you'll be sitting in the old, like, and it's an old auditorium. And for me, when I do something like that, time just stops.
Yeah.
And so if I feel burnt out, I'll and it feels indulgent. Like you're paying to sit in a dark room and get lost and escape into someone else's story. And so I'll do that as like a little mode of reset, and I will always do it. Usually I find myself, my dad and I always have a tradition of doing that on Boxing Day. And I think as well, because Christmas is such a full-on, it's an amazing time, but it's also a full-on time, that going to the movies on Boxing Day is like this little like treat for us, just for ourselves. And but yeah, all the self-care principles need to come straight back in the moment that you feel like you're getting burnout. Or for me, I get really overwhelmed with uncertainty. That's kind of my burnout. Less so. Like, I'm pretty good now. I think when you hit 30, you get really good at saying no.
I can't wait for that.
yeah. Like, so yours is the only podcast I've said yes to this entire month. So yours is the only podcast I'm doing, because I know, well, I'm on manuscript deadline and doing night school. What's the point? I'm not going to be giving the best of myself, you know? And so, yeah, if I can teach you anything as someone that's a little bit older than you, say no. Like, it means that you're going to do everything else better.
And it's funny you say that, because my psychologist, who I actually started seeing over COVID period, was saying the same thing. And she's like, you people please too much. And I'm like, I know I do that. I just need to get out of that habit, but I also want to help people because that's just in my nature. So it's just like a balancing act. And I think the more you do things for yourself and put yourself first, it gives you that balance, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's hard. As you were describing being a people pleaser, I know I sound really like confident and go-getter and stuff, but I am that too. Like, we did heaps of work, my therapist and I, on a mantra, which is like, you need to understand that you don't need to eat to please anyone. Because I'll often be like, oh, I said yes to this lunch and then I ate all the wrong foods. Then I felt really guilty. He's like, why? Why did you do that? He's like, you're doing it to please someone else. He's like, you could have gone for a walk around the tan. You could, this obviously before COVID, you could have gone to a movie with a friend. You could have done any multitude of things, but for some reason your brain thinks that that's what they want. And he's like, stop doing it. And because all of my stuff usually comes back to disordered eating, and as a way to cope, he's like, go for a frigging coffee date, Lola, for God's sake. Like, he's like, he doesn't need, he's like, do not. And as a nutritionist, I said to him, as a nutritionist, I always felt judged on what food I had. And so that's why I think I've carried that through into, because I graduated as a nutritionist like around 21. So I think I carried that through into like becoming I call like a real adult, like later 20s and early 30s, because you really know who the F you are. And he's like, stop carrying that through. He's like, it's really not serving you.
Yeah.
So yeah, drop the people pleaser.
I know. And I think because when I started going back to how I started eating healthier and being more conscious of what I was doing back in Feb, I hadn't drank for about 8 months. And I was like, okay, now that COVID's the restrictions are easing, I'm going to be screwed, because a lot of us like to go out and socially drink, and I need to learn when to say no and stop drinking, because it's not helpful. Like, I feel shit the next day and it's just not rewarding for me. Like, although I'm happier like when I'm doing it, like it's not necessary to binge drink kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think you can have, I'm not a big drinker either. So since all of lockdown, I think I've probably drunk, honestly, because we've stayed in lockdown since March, 12 times. And one of those times I binged, drank and threw up. Yes, I did. Because I hadn't eaten enough. I'd been at school all day and I just hadn't eaten enough, and next minute, I was spewing all night. It was horrible. But I woke up in the middle of the night and I was learning a script written in the 1950s, and there was a line in the script saying this character hit the bottle, and apparently I woke up in the middle of the night and I said, boss, I've got to get off the bottle. And he's like, oh my God, you crazy thing. I had a lot of guilt, but now the more that like through those probably 12, it's probably even less. It might even be more like 8. But anyway, those things, I don't love drinking that much. I enjoy it like on a nice summer night, glass of rosé, glass of red, but Matt loves it. And I think it's probably more the Mediterranean thing where he'll have his, risotto or his pasta and he wants a beautiful glass of wine to go with it. Yeah. And I'll often just sit those ones out, and we'll often get a bottle of wine and he'll just have it over a week and I won't even touch it. But my point is, it doesn't change our experience together. And you can still go out with mates and not drink and just pick your battles. And I think you have more fun. Like, you'll know it when you're drinking. You have more fun when you're on that, like, 2 drinks is like the sweet spot. And then the third, you're like, oh, now I'm being cheeky. And then the fourth, it's all over. You're going to have a hangover. And I think it's like finding that sweet spot, sitting on that 2 and picking the third drink right at that sweet spot that keeps you just kind of like fun and flirty, that kind of. And I like. Yeah, and that's where Matt's amazing too. I'll be like, oh, I'm like, you're at that perfect spot right now. And I've noticed if I have 2 glasses and keep working at night, I fly. Like, my brain just loves it. I've never discovered it until COVID. But at the same time, I can work just as well having 0, so I think it's just about going, hey, does this serve me? Yeah, I want to go out with my mates. It's my birthday. I want to celebrate that. Great. But next weekend, when it's still probably my birthday celebrations, I'm just going to have 2 drinks.
I think
and
that's
call
what
it a
I'm
night.
going to be doing this weekend.
Yeah. 2 drinks is awesome, and you can just sit on them.
Yeah.
You know?
And if it's a long one, like,
Yeah.
why not
And
just enjoy
get
it?
some nice wines. Wines are beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that we have the same experiences in a lot of things, because
Yeah.
like sometimes people just don't relate, and it's like, well, this is awkward.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess, well, I'm really appreciative. I can't believe it's almost been an hour.
I know.
Just chatting with
I'm
you.
so sorry. I can't believe I was late. I've never been late before in my
No,
life.
not at all. Like, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to say yes to this and impart some of your wisdom on everyone. And yeah, I'm really excited to launch this.
Awesome.
I guess for you, what is your parting words that you want to say to my listeners?
Totally. This is something I've lived by since term 1, year 1 of nutrition school, but I've carried it into every aspect of my career, into studying acting, everything. And my first year teacher said to me, her name was Mel, and she said, if you've got a dream or a goal, you're the only person that can get you there, and you're the only person who can stop you. Goodie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, well, it was really nice speaking to you today, and I hope you have an amazing day and amazing rest of your week. And I
And
hope
it's your birthday. We're recording this on your birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you so much. 25.
Dude, I'm 10 years older than you.
Well, you don't look
Crazy.
it, so
I'm hiding behind my blue blockers. I'm hiding behind my blue blocker glasses. But honestly, dude, then if you can nail that not being a people pleaser now, imagine how much cool shit you can get done.
I know. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, man. Big time.
Amazing. Well, thank you again, and I hope to do this again at some time. Wishing you all the luck in the world. I hope you get your visa approved and you're kicking goals as an actor soon.
Fingers crossed. Thank you, my friend. It was a total honor to do this chat today.
Thank you. Take care.
Lola truly lives and breathes humility. She made me feel so at ease despite my jitters. It seriously felt like I was talking to a girlfriend. I hope you loved listening to and were in hysterics at mention of Lola on the bottle. You can find Lola on Instagram at Yummy Lola Berry. If you, like Lola and I, want to eliminate digital eye strain and blue light exposure, head to Baxter Blue and use Ask Elizabeth at checkout for 15% off. Information is also in show notes. To ensure Ask Elizabeth and Unearthing Wellbeing continues to grow, please subscribe and rate the podcast. Feel free to also share and tag us on your socials. I hope you have a lovely day, be safe and be kind. Take care.